Hello, everybody, and welcome to the systems test introduction for Call of Cthulhu. I'm Nick, your systems admin, and I'm joined by Jay
Hello.
and Pav.
Hello.
Hello. As mentioned, we are going to be playing Call of Cthulhu, or talking about Call of Cthulhu for this series of episodes of Systems Test. And Call of Cthulhu, for those who don't know, is a role-playing game set in the Lovecraft mythos where horrible beasts lurk around every corner and everybody goes insane, and you tell good stories and you have a great time, but your characters don't often make it out of it. The way you play is through a percentile dice based system where you will have stats that will go from, say, 1 to 100, and you will roll your percentage dice to try and roll under those stats to accomplish challenges. I will be taking on the role of the Keeper of the Arcane Lore, and Pav and Jay will be taking on investigators who will be going through an interesting little scenario we found, trying to uncover what mysteries might be hiding in the dark and trying to get out of there with some sanity still intact. But yeah, that's where we're going for.
We can only hope.
Exactly.
I'm definitely praying in terms of my sanity.
Oh yes,
I'm
yeah.
definitely praying because I'm a good Catholic boy.
Yeah. So they've made their characters beforehand. We've got a scenario all lined up, ready to go. And yeah, I think I've Call of Cthulhu is one of the big, long running RPG systems out there. I would put it probably on par for being known as kind of up there with D&D with its level of prestige. It's been going for a long time, and this is the 7th edition we'll be playing. So yeah, it's got a bit of legs to it, and it's got a nice place in my heart because I've liked all the Lovecraft mythos. I got into it kind of around the time I started playing games or playing board games, because my first big board game was the Arkham Horror big giant board game, so that was a fun way to explore it. But yeah, I'm very excited to get this one going and see what horrible stuff we can do. I mean, you two have made your character sheets now. What did you like the looks of? And full disclaimer, we have played a little scenario beforehand, so we are a little bit versed with the system. But yeah, what did you like? What are you looking forward to? What about the system appeals to you as well? Who wants to jump in?
I liked the setting of it, 1920s. It's not really one that we've explored before. Mainly, it's been mythical, like Dungeons and Dragons type scenarios. I mean, we did play our last one, which was kind of more modern setting. So this one, yeah, I'm really excited about the scenario. I don't know what it is, but based on the one that we played before, it was very interesting, a little spooky, a little mysterious. And I like the fact that you can choose your characters. There's a lot more guidance, but there's quite a long list of characters. So I've gone for a librarian. In my mind, I'm thinking, say, like the Watchers from Buffy the Vampire Slayer in my mind.
Yeah, nice.
So my character's called Reginald Miles. May sound familiar, or a play on words of a certain other librarian that's famous on television. He's kind of tall, lanky, but not... Strength is not his strong point. He's very bookish, wears glasses, but he's very well kept. He comes from wealth, but no longer has access to it. So he has the knowledge of the finer things in life, and he often still dreams about them, but they are no longer available to him. So he's quite reserved, and what he lacks in physical strength, you could say he has a quiet determination. In terms of his backstory, he was born in London, but moved to Newport, Rhode Island in the 1890s. His father was a very successful businessman. However, where his father was successful in classic masculine things, hunting, shooting, Reginald was not. And after years of being belittled by his father for not being good enough, not being man enough, his father, Reginald Sr., just decided to disown him, cut him off. And as his act of defiance when leaving, Reginald has stolen his father's prized silver gun and become quite proficient at shooting with it. Where he lacks physical strength, he knows he can't fight, so he just shoots if required. Not that he's actually ever shot anyone, but just in case,
Yeah.
it's the right to bear arms, is one of the amendments. So that's what he does.
He's bringing a
That's how he
gun
feels
to
strong.
every sort of fight.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Not just a
nice.
gun though. He also brings his book collection, so he's more likely to hit someone with a heavy book than to use his gun.
Nice.
As
Even
an
though he's much
improvised
better at the
melee.
gun. Yeah, nice.
Even
nice.
though he's much better, improvised melee. He is a librarian, of course, so he's always carrying books anyway. And part of his special things, what they called treasured possessions. That's the one. Is his collection of rare books. That's where his true wealth is. They are, very special. Some are priceless. Where he doesn't have any. He's low in cash. His wealth is in his pocket and in his literature, and he's going to be likely to, if he was in a fire, for example, the first thing he'd save is his books over people.
I think it's just to jump in on that, what I found really interesting about the character creation, because I read up on it just to make sure that I could understand, what's going on and make sure everyone's sheets, because we had a bit of back and forth about making sure it was all done, is the fact that your character's stats are very differently assigned than they are, say, in D&D, where in D&D you could use the array. You can do an array version in this too, but you roll, and those 3 dice, you roll for strength at the time, and your strength is basically that. You roll for con, and that's that. So quite funnily as well, actually, your sanity starting is quite low at 30. So maybe your dad really did quite a good job on you in belittling you and breaking your self-confidence and self-worth down, that your willpower and sanity are both quite low to start with.
However, my size, I'm tall, so the ladies still love me in the 1920s.
Lanky old boy. Suspenders up to nowhere.
Plus 6 foot. So
nice.
That's that. And where I've obviously focused my skills in mainly librarian, I've just dabbled in a bit of shooting, as I mentioned, occult, psychologies, to make sure I'm covered in those. And sometimes I do mutter and babble in Latin. That's my other language skill.
So pretentious.
Amas. That'd be the schooling I received in London, England, up to the age of 10.
Was it Quintus est in horto? All that goodness.
Coquus.
Yes, there we go. And Jay, what are you looking forward to then? What appealed to you in the character creation or anything about that?
Yeah, I think I enjoy. I think I'm looking for. I like the mechanics of the sort of percentile rolling under mechanism.
And the fact that better you are at something, the more likely you are to do it well.
Yes, to be honest, I really, really do like the more causal link between there is less for instance, something that you're not trained in, you have a 5% chance to a 1% chance of being successful in it, which I think feels good to me. I think one of my gripes about, not to compare systems, but one of my gripes about D&D is just this sort of the variation in success at things that you're supposedly good at is quite wild. You're getting a +5 to whatever it is. When you're rolling a d20, takes it from a 6 to a 26. It's quite 6 to 25. Quite a wide variation in there compared to someone who's not trained, who has a 1 to 20.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There actually isn't that much difference between those two roles.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Whereas I enjoy that this is much more no, you have things that you're good at, and there's a lot of stuff that you're not good at. And that's sort of what do you choose to be good at as part of character creation? I really enjoyed. I think it's a really interesting balance between the forming your character through creation and thinking about, so as you said, right, you roll your stats out, and then based on your stats you're okay, what kind of character have I got now?
Yes. And the occupations also influence that too, because so for people, when you build your character, you roll your dice, you've got your stats, and then you pick an occupation for that character, but the amount of skill points you get for your character spend and the skill points you put into your skills to make you more successful at them are based on different stats depending on what occupation you are. So the librarian has 4 times their education, which in Pav's case gave him, what was it, 360 points or something to spend between
320,
those?
yeah. I got
Yeah,
80 edu, so times that by 4.
yeah, yeah. But then, with, say, a film actor, theirs is based on their appearance, and there was another one, I
Yeah, it
think.
was bartender. So I've
Yeah.
chosen to be a bartender, which is 2 times my education and 2 times my appearance. My appearance was not my best stat. Like, actually,
Mm.
dexterity was my best stat. And I was like, oh, if I'm like min-maxing this, I would choose the occupation of like a private investigator who gets to do 2 times their dexterity, or like a sort of more.
Nice.
But I was a bit like, actually, I kind of want to play a character that, my strength is 45 and my con is 35, which are both very low.
Yeah.
So I was kind of
You're like, you must have been a sickly child with a 35 con, 50.
Exactly.
And the way it's described is 50 is kind of the human average. And if you're slightly below that, like 45, 40, you're still average. But as you get down to, say, the 30s, those are low. And if you get up to, say, 80 or 75 or whatever in the higher ones, they are beyond what your normal people are. So it's quite nice that it has that real range. And I think it makes for a great RPing opportunity as well to really lean into those things.
Yeah,
I can
100%.
imagine
So
2 slightly average humans trying to do this in terms
Yeah.
of strength.
But you're above
Yeah.
average in several things, so
Yeah,
you
yeah,
should be
yeah.
okay.
Indeed.
So I think during character creation, it was quite fun sort of thinking about what character do I want to build, what occupation leans into like these backstories versus like what do I want to RP. So I went for I've got a very high dexterity. I went into this sort of bartender. Obviously, it's during the Prohibition era, so I think that's quite fun. I think that's quite like, undergroundy. So sort of put stuff in stealth and spot hidden to be that sort of like find speakeasies, work in speakeasies, help hide speakeasies. A bit of like fast talking and charm. My character's like got Irish descent, Irish American. So it has that sort of sense of like can both fast talk or charm his way out of situations, avoid the law at all
Yeah,
costs,
nice. Yeah.
while working in a disreputable illegal industry.
Yes.
And sort of like traveled around a bit. But yeah, no, I think I enjoy this system. As you said, we've played it once before. I think it is more. It was challenging working out the balance between what to invest in, like in points in, from like a gameplay, from like an RP perspective versus a like how do I do well in situations perspective. If that makes sense. So like when we were comparing our sheets, it's like, oh great, like none of us has put anything into any like climb, jump, athletics. Like we are not going to be running away or like climbing into buildings successfully.
We'll be hiding for sure.
Yeah, we will be hiding.
We will hide first.
Yeah,
Stealth, baby. That's what it's about.
yeah.
Well,
So
my
I think
stealth's
there's
only
it's
40, but
okay.
yeah,
I'll
we'll
be
try.
hiding.
Look, I think it plays into the fact that I'm very tall, so it's hard to hide when you're that big.
Yeah.
But I'm wiry. Maybe I could get into tight spots.
Yeah, so I very much I enjoyed the character creation. I think last time as well we played with pre-gen characters, and actually I
Yeah, that's
really
right.
enjoyed building my own character and like choosing where to invest points in.
Yeah, that's another question actually for you both. I listen to a lot of like podcasts, sort of let's plays and stuff, so I'm pretty well versed with the rules and I read through some obviously to refamiliarize myself and pick out the little bits that are a little bit finicky. There's the edge cases where certain things happen. I need to just make sure that I've got down for you. So hopefully I have got that. But I think the system is actually pretty intuitive and pretty easy to pick up and do. And I wondered what your thoughts were on it based on what you've read, making a character, what we've played so far, and from different perspectives as well. As anybody who, Jay, I would say, we've got more experience, and Pav went from the time we did last time and from this revisit. What do you both think about it as a system for people who are both experienced and new, I guess, really? And I don't know who wants to jump in first there.
I really enjoyed playing it the last time. I think when it got got to the time where everyone's ready to go to bed, I was very happy to carry on playing. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
definitely one that enjoys the story a lot more than the actual gameplay. Not that I don't enjoy the gameplay and the mechanics of the game, but I just get involved in the story completely and want to see it through to the end. My character's arc, their redemption stages, their heroic stages, just conclusion of the story is what drives me. And this world gives great opportunity for like really good storytelling, and there's obviously massive lore around it, and it mixes real life with the occult, which kind of, like I mentioned Buffy the Vampire Slayer earlier,
yeah.
it sounds really interesting like that, and I think in my mind goes in many
It's
different directions with it.
Yeah, and I think one of the strengths of this system as well is that it's really good to do like episodes, so it's really suited for one shots in that your characters, it doesn't then matter if they have grisly ends because that's all part of the story of how it's going to go down. I think it's really good in telling the stories, and I think it has really interesting things that come out of it. So I agree with you in that I really like it for the narrative aspect of it because I think it does that bit really well.
And it's like the 1920s, so life expectancy isn't that long anyway, so your
Yeah,
characters
especially when you're
can
dealing with things that have come off a meteorite that are hanging out in your well. You know,
I agree. I think what I really like about Call of Cthulhu as a concept is the exploration together. That like it is this like truly investigative nature of like the exploring the unknown. And it's sort of like I like that the premise is that we all come with this like similar level of like baseline of understanding. Do you know what I mean? It's not like in other systems where it's like, oh, I've seen this, my character's seen this before and therefore knows loads more than anyone else. And like, I will now tell everyone how much I know. Or like we as people, metagaming are like, oh yeah, I've seen like blah, blah before. Whereas I think I like the inherent nature of Cthulhu in that like, you literally have no idea what each story, as you say, it lends itself much more to one shots because like your characters don't survive. But also like it lends itself to that because it's like each one is about exploring a different event or a different like type
weird
of like
circumstance, and
weirdness.
they're not. And the whole great thing about them is that they're not cut and dry. They're not like a copy and
Mm.
paste. Like there is a dragon ransacking
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah,
town, whereas actually you go into something and you have no idea what could be happening. So I think it's a
yeah,
yeah, it can be
yeah,
way
yeah, yeah.
more interesting in that respect.
Agreed.
I mean, I am biased. I really like it, so I'm talking at it from a place of bias. So yeah,
You also asked in like terms of how we found like creating characters up. I would say that I did find this more complex. Like for people coming to this fresh, I did find it like I put my hands up. This is the first time I haven't read the whole book cover to cover, which I will
stone
endeavor
him,
to do
everybody. Stone him. Terrible.
before we get to the end point, so I can provide my like it took
welcome
me
to
X
my world, Jay.
hours. I know, right? But it is a much heftier. This is a 289 page book, and a
To be
lot
fair,
of that
half of that was a story.
yeah, yeah. And a lot of it is like creating a character. But it like compared to Ronin, which is like very rules light, this is sort of very rules heavy. There are a lot of
It's very
choices you
much
have to
other end of
make.
the spectrum, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and and even then there's a lot more choices you have to make up front before you even get going. um the nature of this being like sort of like one shot esque, the rule book isn't about how your character develops over like x number of levels. It's sort of like all of the investment goes up front and you choose between, I mean, like god knows how many skills there are here. It's probably like 40. I don't know, I've just made that up. I'll actually count into at some point. But there are a lot of skills to choose from that are like very situational, which does make it quite
That's the thing about it.
challenging
Yeah.
when you're coming to like, how do I design a character? And I think that's where like again, I do like this system. I like that it's specific and it drives you. But like, for instance, when you create your character, you choose your occupation that gives you a list of like 6 things that you get to invest in. And then after that, it's like, oh, and you just get to times your intelligence bonus by 2, and you can invest that in any skills. So you go from like suddenly like, oh, I'm trained in these specific things because it's my job, to then like, oh, I can just bump anything up. Oh my god, what do I bump up?
So you're allowed to have hobbies, Jay.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah,
I guess
no, I
this is
know.
where it feeds into the backstory, isn't it, of your character, and that's where the personal interest stuff comes in, which I think is a nice touch. So actually, you could be a bartender, but be like, oh, you know what? I have 30 points in violin because I was a classically trained violinist or something like that. But there's always that fine line, and I fall foul of this
The
in
fiddle.
say D&D as well. There you go, where I never take the spells that are just random janky spells. I've always got to take like the damage spells. I never take a spell that's like, I'll make some flowers grow. You know, I just can't do it. But yeah, and this I think encourages you. Well, I don't know if it does, but
We have very
there's
different
scope
ways
to
of
do
playing.
it. Completely. Yeah, exactly.
I think after playing Fiasco, though, I'm ready for something that's rules heavy and a lot of guidance.
That is true.
Yes.
Sure, that is true.
Yeah, we're still undecided whether we're going to release the Fiasco tapes. I think I was talking to Jay about this. I think we'll release the discussion pieces initially, but maybe not the actual tapes unless people beg us, or we can edit them
I
into
think they
something.
stand
Much
a
of a
lot
fiasco
down.
for even our.
They can have it on our
listeners.
if they sign up and pay for our Patreon.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
OnlyFans.
Which doesn't exist yet, but it might do later. Oh yeah, actually, let's not do Patreon like normal podcasters. Let's do an OnlyFans.
This is like a punishment. It's like, thanks for paying us. Now you get all of our worst material.
Well, see, we're human, and we don't just publish top quality material all the time. Yeah, you get to see we're flawed.
Deleted scenes.
Maybe this
well
is
as the
what would make
director's
people go
commentary.
mad. You know, yeah,
10 hours of
Having to
deleted
listen to us
scenes.
chat utter nonsense and argue.
Well, people have been doing that hopefully enough already that they'll stick with us even once they see that we've got warts and all. So there we go. Good. Yeah. Were there any other points that anyone wanted to raise at all? Anything else jumped out?
I'm ready to try not to go insane, and hopefully I'll avoid combat. Yeah, I think I think accounting will come in very useful in this scenario. So I've given myself.
It's
45.
set in a bank. No. No, that's cool. I think I'm really excited. I've been doing a lot of reading, a lot of prep. Make sure I can hopefully try and deliver the best experience to you both. But yeah, Jay, anything else you wanted to add?
No, I think I'm just excited to get going, really.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us on our. I keep forgetting what I call these. The preview chat. I'll come up with a good name for it. Thank you. Introduction. That's such a classic word for a reason. Thank you for joining us on our introduction to Call of Cthulhu, and join us again for episode 1 of our scenario. This is Systems Test signing out. Pav, do you want to do the noise? Bye. If you want to know more about the podcast, follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky, searching Systems Test.